So how has NATO been impacted by Finland joining the alliance?
Deeply. I would actually say that I'd go as far to say that NATO's been more impacted by Finland joining than Finland has by joining NATO, because they're looking at what's happened in Ukraine, and they're wanting to develop the strategy more towards a deterrence by denial approach. And they're very open about this. It says so in like NATO documents, but they're now approaching, like, for example, in the Baltic states that sort of most analysts see as the next target. Initially, the sort of strategy was going to be have a tripwire force there, so small number of forces to just sort of hold the line as best they can, but with the view that Russia's going to steamroller them, and then we can counterattack and push the Russians out. Now we realise that actually that's going to be a lot more difficult than we expect. So NATO's now adopting an approach of defend every inch. So actually make it more of a denial strategy. So we're going to make such defence in depth that if Russia tries to cross the line, the costs they're going to have to endure, even to take a little bit of ground, is going to be so high that they won't want to. So rather than relying on sort of NATO unifying and like, okay, we're all going to pile in and punish you for it. Instead, it's like, well, actually, no, we're going to make sure our defences are so good that you won't even bother testing us. Finland as well has been approached by lots of different NATO countries to learn from their approach. And you can see that in the language used by NATO countries, including the UK. So I asked the Secretary General of the Security Committee, because he was telling me that the amount of countries that have come to them since the invasion of Ukraine is absolutely insane. It's like well over 100 have come to try and learn from this and do workshops with the Security Committee. And bless them, they're not actually a big team, so they're very, very busy. But I asked who in Europe are the most active. Who in Europe are the ones who've really come to you and want to learn more? And he said the three who have been most active in trying to learn is Germany, the Netherlands, and the UK.
Okay.
Others have as well, obviously, but those three have been the most like, please teach us what you know. So I found that really interesting. And you can see, and listeners will probably have heard as well if they've turned on the news, especially in the UK, is they'll have heard a phrase, whole of society approach or whole of society defense, which is just, I would say, sort of a westernized terminology way of saying sort of a deterrence by denial approach or like a comprehensive security model, total defense model, whatever it may be. Whole of society, I think, is a little bit softer, which is why they've used it for the gentle liberal democracies that they need to soft launch these quite hard concepts. But that's used a lot in the UK. I read the recent French like strategic review. They use the same phrase, whole of society approach. They use it a lot.